Good afternoon. I'm Nate with Unique Supply. Here today to demonstrate A.I.R.O Composites gas riser rehabilitation kit. This kit can be used for leak sealing, for mechanical reinforcement, for corrosion protection. It can be used to protect girth wells on directional drilling and boring, surface to air transitions, i.e. riser, impact and abrasion resistance. It's actually an acronym for abrasion impact resistant outer wrap. First thing you'll do is open up the kit. You're going to get instructions. On one side you'll have the TDS. On the other side you'll have the actual instructions. You will then get a pair of gloves. You'll also get the wrap itself. And you'll get an extra large 2-part epoxy putty stick. First thing you want to do is put on your gloves. This is a 12 mil thick glove. You can see it's pretty strong. I'm not ripping it, I'm pulling on it pretty hard. It is cuffed so that it goes over your FRC because you don't want to get resin on your clothing. If you do, you'll ruin your clothes. You'll never be able to get it off. So we definitely put this in our kit because we've done these types of applications before, and we saw that as being an issue. An FRC isn't cheap. The reason it comes with a putty stick so that you can address any through-wall conditions, any pitting on your pipe. If you have to make a bridge from a transition, whether it be a valve or a fitting, you can worm it and you can kind of slope that to where you don't have an abrupt change from one surface to the other. The good thing about this particular putty stick and the fact that it comes in a tube, if you only need this much, you rip that much off, you stick the rest back in your tube, and you throw it in your toolbox or in your truck, back in your truck. For this demo, since I don't really have any through wall on this particular pipe, I'll just put a piece on there just to kind of show you how to do it. First thing you want to do is take a piece of sandpaper, and you want to get anything off the pipe that is scaling and flaking off the pipe. Any loose rust you want to remove from the pipe. Surface prep in general, that's how you get your best adhesion to the pipe. You're not obviously going to do a blast or anything like that on a gas riser. And with our product and the way that the resin expands, we don't require near as much surface prep. You'll see why in a second. Then you want to clean your pipe, so get a little acetone here. Spray it on there, give it a good wipe down. That'll ensure you get a good bond to the pipe. Now, the wrap itself, we have multiple different sizes for different applications. The riser, the 2-inch by 15-foot long, is going to be that's going to be the size every time because that's exactly what you need for the riser. If you were doing a farm tap or something much larger, if you had a larger area to cover, you know, we might move up to the 4-inch by 15, we have 6 by 30, we have 12 by 30s, 12 by 50. So a number of different sizes for different applications. But typically, the gas risers are going to be your 2 by 15 kit. This is black on the inside, gray on the outside. You rip it apart. Now there are instructions in this tube. When you pull out the paper, you'll see the instruction sheet. So you do have them, but it's pretty straightforward. It is pull apart, put back together, pull apart, put back together. And that's going to be until it becomes uniform in color. So you want it to all be gray. As you're ripping it apart and putting it back together, you'll start to see that color change. Now, if you wait too long, you get this. That's why we call it a steel stick, because it gets a small steel. You have a few minutes to work with it. Now, if I were building a transition, I would kind of worm it like Play-Doh, like so. And I would kind of go around wherever that transition is, and I would kind of flatten it down and taper it to one side to build that bridge. If I were doing pitted pipe, I would kind of stick it on here where your problem's going to be. Most likely it'll be where your surface to air transition is, where grandma or grandpa or mom or dad weed eats, you know, every Sunday, and they just keep bashing that riser. You don't want to put a big old chunk. Sometimes I'll do this on clear PVC pipe so that you can actually see where the putty was pulled in to the defect area. You know, we sell this a lot with our leak repair kits, and we do it a little different depending on if we're doing an active leak or a non-active leak. A non-active leak, we can put the putty on, we can go back over it with the wrap. And an active leak, we push it into the fabric of the wrap and then pull it into the defect. As you can see, I kind of got those on there, just giving you an idea how you would do it on your pitted parts. Take the rest of it, stick it back in your tube. Now, the wrap itself, it comes in a large bag. There's a notch in the top. You can rip the top off. You can use the bag to fill up with water and squish the wrap inside. You want to squish the wrap in the water. I have a bucket for this demonstration, but it's the same exact concept. You could just take the top off the bag. I like to use a bucket because it gives you a little bit more room, but if I didn't have one, I would still have enough with the bag. I would pour the water in the top of it, and I would literally squish the bag. So I'll take it out so you can see it. That's kind of why I wanted the bucket for this reason. Now this is white, I got white samples, but the gas riser is going to be black in color. It's going to look a lot better. All it will do will fade in the sun. It is UV stable, but it will kind of lighten up a little bit, almost kind of turn to a gray color. We tried gray. Gray still, as does white, kind of gets a orangish color from the urethane and the UV rays. Like any of that gap fill stuff you put in your house or spray foam insulation, kind of gets that orangish color. So we found that black doesn't do that. It's still pleasing to the eye, and if anything, it looks more and more like your riser. This is a woven fabric, so it's very thick, saturated with resin. This is our only product that does not come with a core. We like the fact that it doesn't come with a core, because when you're working on a riser, you're always up against something, whether it be a building or other piping systems. You don't always have a whole lot of room. So you can imagine if this had a 1-inch core, it would be, you know, this much bigger. And you would have, I think, a little bit more trouble kind of getting it in and around where you need it to be. So basically you take it, get your bucket. Now you want to squeeze it in the water for about 15 seconds. The reason you're doing that is so the water gets all the way through the wrap. If you just sit it in the water, it's going to cure, but the outside may cure quicker, and that's what you're putting on the pipe first. So you don't want that to start curing out prior to everything else just because you let it sit in the water for too long. So you want to squish it. You want to get the water all the way through it. That's going to give you a good cohesion to the pipe. So I think I got a pretty good saturation of water on there. Now, when you unroll it, you want to go the same way as that the roll goes. So I don't want to put it on like this and then have to unroll like that against myself. I want to go the same way as the pipe. So what you do first is you go around circumferentially twice, all the way around. This is typically designed for about a 10-inch repair. You can do more because we do give you 3 extra feet. And then you want to pull tight the entire time and start your 50% overlap. I would pull in really tight right there because that's where a defect would be with that putty. Make sure that putty stick got pulled into that defect. And you get to the bottom, or where you're stopping your repair, you want to go around circumferentially again and come back with your 50% overlap. Keep pulling tight the entire time. So if you got to stop it and pull it, you want to get a good bond to the pipe, you want to pull it really tight. You're not going to rip it. It's a woven fabric. It's very strong. So you can pull on it pretty good. A lot of times if we have a defect and we need to really pull that putty stick in, especially if it's an active leak, we'll twist it, kind of rope it, so that we can really pull on it to stretch it. In this case, and with the risers in general, that's something we don't typically need to do. You can see it's starting to foam now. The more water, the better. So you can't have enough water, and it doesn't really matter what type of water you use, whether you use ditch water, rainwater, groundwater, tap water, that doesn't matter. Take your end off here. Got a lot of resin in the center of your core. Now, what you want to do is you want to massage the resin back into the fabric. As it's starting to cure, it'll start expanding. It'll look like it's unrolling, which it is because that resin is expanding. You want the resin to expand inwards. So you don't want the resin expanding out. You want it to be expanding into the defect of the pipe. So you have to hand finish this product. You can't just put it on and leave it. It has a lot of resin for a reason, and it makes for a really good repair, but you do have to hand finish the product. You do have to put some effort in to get it to stay. As it starts to cure out, it will stop moving, okay? It will stop trying to expand and pull off from itself. Now, there's other ways to do this. Some people like to use a stricture banding on it, where they actually put a polyethylene film over it so that it can't move when it's curing. We didn't do that with this particular product because there's too many extra steps, we feel, when you could just hand finish it out in the field. What you would have to do if you were doing it that way is put that stretch film on it. You'd have to get a really expensive and easy to lose perforator tool, and you'd have to perforate the entire length of the stretch film. And then once it cured out, you would have to go remove the stretch film. So you may have to put a little bit more effort in as far as hand finishing, but you save on quite a few steps by not having to use the polyethylene film. The more water, the better. So, like I said, you can stick your gloves. You want to keep your gloves wet. The more you kind of finish it out before it stops moving, the better it's going to look on the pipe. I think black looks better. You can't see as much on the black if you have any kind of uneven cure from the resin. You just won't notice it. But typically, as long as you smooth it out, you'll get a nice, pretty repair. You can kind of grab it, push it back into the pipe. Make sure it's expanding in the defect area. Another thing that does is, if you let it expand outwards, and you did have a leak in the future, because you let it expand outwards, you've given that leak, or that, whether it be gas or liquid, you've given it a path to escape. Whereas if you're pushing it in, you're kind of filling in those holes of a urethane. You can think of kind of a urethane as a Swiss cheese. You want to get as least amount of holes as possible so that that particular media doesn't have a path to travel through. When it starts really sticking to your gloves like that, make sure you keep your gloves wet. You add water onto the pipe. If I was doing it in the bag, I'd just add the water onto the pipe from the bag. As you can see, it's not moving back or trying to unroll off itself anymore. It's almost to the point where I can hand finish it without the glove. One thing you want to do is you want to wait before you do that so that you don't get it all over yourself. And if you do get it on your hands, you can, as long as you get it off pretty quickly, it's pretty easy to come off. If you don't get it off quickly and it sticks on your hands or dries, you can still peel it off. It's just kind of a pain. You will feel a little bit of heat because it is an exothermic reaction, but not enough to where it would affect you in any way. So just know if you do feel some heat, that's what it's supposed to be doing. And I'll grab the camera after I'm finished this so y'all can see an up close look at it. but you want to get a nice hand finish to it, make it look nice. Putting the black one on the riser, a lot of times people won't even notice that it's on the pipe. Pull my gloves off at this point. As you can see, I'm wearing long sleeves. I have nothing, no resin whatsoever on my hands, on my gloves. Still a little bit wet. You want to wait a second, get your hands nice and wet. But as long as it's not moving, you got some time. The only reason you're gonna hand finish it too is because you want to pretty it up. So you can add more water. Make sure you get a good reaction. Still a little tacky to the touch. But you can see the wrap's not trying to pull back on itself. It's a great product. You know, you can extend the life of your riser exponentially by putting it on there, especially if you don't wait too long. The Gas Technology Institute did testing on urethane wraps for riser rehabilitation, and they determined that if, as long as you don't have more or greater than 80% wall loss in your riser, then this repair will extend that lifespan by 50 years. Now, if you have more than that, then you actually have two different things you have to address. One would be a leak, so you have a leak repair that you have to address, and then once you repaired that through wall, then you could actually perform a rehabilitation, and that would be based on that repair of the through wall. So you can fix it. We do offer a couple of different products for sealing active gas leaks, one of which is a silicone tape that comes with a silicone putty. Actually works great. The thing we don't like about it is that if somebody hits it with a weed eater, if some soil or sand braids up against it, it becomes a homogeneous bond when it fuses to itself. So if it gets a split in it, it comes off completely. So we recommend, if we sell the leak repair product, we recommend coming back over that with the putty stick and then the wrap. That way we've addressed the through wall, we've stopped the leak, and we've stopped anything from being able to damage what's actually addressing the leak. Now you can see right here, it's really foaming up pretty good. This is to pretty it up. You don't want it to be all foamed, and you want it to look nice, so you get a nice smooth finish on it. Some people will take, like at their ends, they'll either take their little piece of sandpaper, or they'll take a little razor knife or something like that, or a knife, and they'll kind of cut that off, trim that little excess bit of resin so that it doesn't show up, that you can't see it on any particular part of the pipe itself. All you see is the wrap, with the wrap being black, not noticeable. But the main thing is to squeeze the wrap into the water, squish it 15-20 seconds, wrap it around the pipe tight. You know, after you've knocked off anything that's flaking off already, scaling, any rust, any loose debris, cleaned it off, just wiped it down just quickly like I did, and then go the same way as the wrap, circumferential around first, to where you can have tension on it, and then you can pull really tight. Once you get the whole thing on, you know, it's gonna start expanding and trying to move on you. As long as you hand finish it and do that until it stops moving, you'll wind up with a pretty repair, and it'll look like this, and it'll be super strong. Now, our wrap has a Shore D hardness of around 80. So most of your other ones are gonna be about 65. One of the main reasons we did that was because of the directional drilling and boring application for it. You need to have a harder surface. But then also we didn't want a soft repair. We wanted something that was going to be truly impact and abrasion resistant. We've done a lot of in-house testing. We feel that it's a great product for this application and many others. A lot of our customers come to us and say, hey, did you know that it worked on this or that it worked on that? And sometimes we say yes, and sometimes we say no, because once you have this product and you work with it, you kind of can figure out different applications that you may be able to use it on. Grab the camera and I'll actually give you all a close-up of how it looks. As you can see, nice pretty repair, not pulling off the pipe. It's still not quite all the way cured yet, but that will happen in the next minute or so, and you won't have much else to do after that. All right, thanks for watching.